So let's say you're a musician, you're up on stage, you're playing a brilliant and demanding piece of music, and got perfect technique, a brilliant sound. You look like you're trying to exorcise a demon from your instrument, really going at it. And and yet, at the end of the concert, you feel unmoved and unfulfilled. You really tried your hardest, but you just didn't really connect with a sense of inspiration or the flow of emotion. So what's going on there? There's a number of things happening there, and that's what the topic of today's video. We'll be talking about the distinction between effort and expression, real emotional connection. Because a lot of times these get confused, and something like technique or effort in itself, it's necessary in some ways, but it's not sufficient to really create a work of art, a piece of music, a performance that really fulfills and satisfies. So I'm going to talk about why that is and give you some clues as to what to do about that. So my name is Joseph Arnold. I'm a violinist, Alexander technique teacher, and director of the Soul Force Arts Institute. And today I'm going to be reading from my upcoming book, Soul Force Arts, The Vital Role of Musicians and Other Artists in a World That's Lost Its Mind. And if you want to find out more about that book, you can watch some of my other videos. You can go to my website, josepharnold.com, and read some of my blog posts about it. I don't have a page about my book yet on my website, but you can go to my blog posts and videos and learn all about it there. And you can also sign up for my newsletter. That would be a good way to learn about it, because I'll send information and updates about that. In any case, effort and expression. So I'm going to read an excerpt from chapter 4 of my book, which is about playing from the heart. And playing from the heart is really the answer to the scenario I started out with in this video. And over the next few videos, I'm going to read from this chapter on playing from the heart. And it's going to include some of the why and some of the how around how to play from the heart, how to play more effortlessly, how to really connect with a sense of authentic emotional expression, no matter what your art form is, no matter your level or ability. Everybody can play from the heart, and it's really, I believe, what audiences want, it's what artists want. And even though I call it playing from the heart, I'm a musician, right? So that I use this terminology, but you can draw from the heart, you can dance from the heart, anything. So here we go. So here's the first section of chapter 4, called Effort versus Expression. And there's a quote from Joe Strummer of the band The Clash. "We aren't particularly talented, we try harder." So the first paragraph is basically what I started this video out with, but I'll just read it again because it goes with the flow of it. Let's imagine that you're up on stage, playing a demanding and dynamic piece of music. You play all the right notes, you have perfect technique, you have a brilliant sound. You look like you're trying to exorcise a demon from your instrument, and yet, after the performance, you feel unfulfilled and unmoved. You tried your hardest, but you just didn't connect with real inspiration or genuine feeling. Why not? Answers come from an understanding of the threefold braid of Soul Force mastery. All right, and if you want a video on that, check out my previous video on this channel. I'll also put a link below. The threefold braid of Soul Force mastery basically is about what does it take to come to true artistic mastery that goes beyond just technique. And you need three things. Technique is one of them, but you also need effortlessness, learning how to move your body with less tension in a more relaxed way. And you also need the knowledge of the soul. You need to be connected to something authentic inside you. All right, so that's the threefold braid. Technique, effortlessness, knowledge of the soul. So I'll keep reading. So think back to the scenario, again, of the performance, and see if you can discern which of the three strands are either present or missing. You may notice that the first strand, technique, is present in that story, but the other two, effortlessness and the knowledge of the soul, are what's in short supply. This indicates a kind of overly narrow focus on technique that may be very familiar to many musicians and other artists. On the one hand, there's nothing inherently wrong with focusing on technique. Great technique is, after all, a necessary part of great artistry. However, as we've already seen, technique by itself is not sufficient to create a performance of power and beauty, one that can actually move you and your audiences. A common result of narrowly focusing on technique is that the expression of emotion in a creative act gets unconsciously confused with trying harder. You can see this in the scrunched faces and contorted postures of performers, for instance, who look like they're really feeling it, like guitar face. But is really feeling it the same thing as authentic emotional expression? In an echo of the old adage, if at first you don't succeed, then try again, it's almost as if the message many of us get about expressivity is, if it's not expressive enough, just express harder. The trouble with this is that trying or expressing harder creates bodily tension, which in turn interferes with your expressive potential. Emotion is a kind of energy. An expression of emotion requires the movement of that energy, like the flow of water through a hose. But when you try hard, tension builds in the body and acts like a kink in that hose. The result, instead of having the hoped-for emotional power, has only the characteristics of excess effort and ends up feeling strained, mechanical, or superficial. At its root, the problem of expressing harder indicates a disconnection from the true source of emotion and artistic inspiration during the creative act. This source is the knowledge of the soul. Trying to create something without connection to the knowledge of the soul is like trying to animate a marionette. You can get pretty close by manipulating it via strings from the outside, but doing so will never make it come truly alive. For that, you need to be in touch with your knowledge of the soul during the creative act itself. This is playing from the heart. Playing from the heart ties all three strands of soul force mastery together. It suffuses your creative acts with inspiration and genuine feeling. It allows an immediate sense of ease and release to your body and brings new vitality and flow to your technique. Playing from the heart is the answer to the following questions. How can I create with both relaxation and emotional impact? How can I master even the most difficult artistic challenges with less tension? How can I best interpret a piece in an original, fresh, lively, and inspired way? How can I have more fun in my creative life? How do I consistently create in a way that moves and transports my audiences? How do I become a vessel for a deeper creative expression? How do I make my performances feel less mechanical or forced? How can I more effortlessly collaborate with others? How can I create with less anxiety and be more confident about my artistic choices? And one more, how can I find my unique voice as an artist? There is a common idea that real inspiration and genuine artistic feeling happens only by chance or is accessible only by a lucky few. But this is not true. Playing from the heart is a skill that any musician or artist can learn and benefit from, no matter their age or abilities. The first step in that learning process is to examine any unconscious beliefs and habits that might be getting in the way of your ability to really bring your art alive. And that's what we'll get to next time. So just setting the stage here for thinking about playing from the heart and learning how to do that. I love teaching this so much. It really brings me alive, and I guess that's really the point of art, isn't it? I've made a lot of videos about the purpose of the arts, the point of the arts, and one lens on that, one perspective, is that it's to bring us alive. Really the whole point of life itself, the point of your life, the point of my life, the point of life in general, is to generate more life, is to come into a greater complexity and greater consciousness and flourishing of life. You can see this through the whole history of life on Earth, from very simple forms to more and more complex life forms, more deeply interconnected life forms. And I believe that human life is no different than that. Like what really makes us feel good, what really makes us feel alive and inspired, fulfilled, connected, is whatever makes us come more alive. It is participating in this process of coming into greater aliveness. And the arts have a vital role to play in that. That's why I use that word in my book title, the vital role of musicians and other artists in a world that's lost its mind. The way in which we've lost our mind in our society is that so much of what we do is deadening, in a sense. Look at what we're doing to the earth, and look at what we do to each other. And even just like taking a crummy job or an unfulfilling gig or something, what feels unfulfilling about that is that you're not in service of life. Some part of you knows that you're not in service of life, and so why would you feel fulfilled in some crummy job, for instance? Enough money will not answer. There's no amount of money that's enough to fill that hole inside. And so the answer then is to orient and do what breeds more life in the world. And that can look like so many different things. It need necessarily be like just about biological life, like growing a garden or having children or something. But it starts with you doing the things to bring yourself alive, whatever that takes. And then in your work, in your life, your livelihood, the things that you do in your life, doing each of those things in service of more life. So that's what playing from the heart is. It's the thing that is the practice that brings like a bunch of sounds, a bunch of separate notes alive. It makes it real music. Okay, so I'm going to wrap things up for today. I'll have the next few videos about playing from the heart, and I've already done other videos on playing from the heart. So keep an eye out for that. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video if you did like it. I always feel funny about asking for these kinds of things, but it really does help to promote the channel and help other people find this content, because I know there's a need for this. I create this content because it's what I would have wanted when I was in college and really was feeling so lost in music school. And so my invitation to you is to share it with somebody who might similarly be feeling lost, because this is my service to life. I serve life in a variety of ways. One of them is sort of by being an explorer, a philosopher, and like diving deep into these questions in my own life, finding healing and growth in my own life, and then sharing those with my people, and my people tend to be musicians and other artists. And that's how I'm helping bring the world more alive. So maybe you can aid me in that purpose by sharing this content, so I can get a wider audience, because that would feel really good for me to know that I'm helping other people come alive. Okay. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.